All right, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? How is it going? I'm Is There No One Else? In the video I'm bringing you today, we are going to go through the message from Brian Wheeler talking about the upcoming Cyrodiil tests that will be on PC, EU, and NA starting February 15th. So it says February 15th, Cyrodiil test details. Here's the post. Heyo, gang. Last year, we ran a series of tests on the live PC mega servers in an effort to identify potential solutions for the ongoing performance issues in Cyrodiil. You can read the full details surrounding the reasons behind these tests in this forum post. Our previous rounds of testing in Cyrodiil last year concluded with some interesting data that pointed us towards various avenues to explore for both future tests and long-term solutions. However, these tests do not provide a definitive "this will fix all the things" solutions. We did find that slowing down calculations on the server per combat action does indeed help with performance, but again, not to an appreciable amount to where it could be a permanent solution. More tests are necessary to follow various branches of thought regarding server performance and combat calculations. As such, we will be performing at least one more test where we are affecting how much information is processed per combat action by limiting item set procs in Cyrodiil. Now, this is the important thing for those of you guys that just like to temporarily heal or temporarily listen to videos and, you know, just have it in the background. This is the important thing coming February 15th. On February 15th, we will be disabling item set bonuses outside of pure stat gains. This means any item set which has a proc or condition, which is driven by an ability, will have that ability disabled. This includes item sets like Seducer, as that set reduces magic cost of abilities by 10%. The reduction of cost is done via an ability, which has to check anytime you cast an ability if its cost should be reduced. Other sets such as Hunting's Rage is completely unaffected by this change, as it simply grants stats without requirements. The full list of sets which are not affected by this test are as follows. So, starting February 15th, if you are not wearing one of these sets mentioned below, your set will be disabled. You can wear it in PvP, you will not get the 5-piece bonus. So if you're not wearing Amber Plasm, Armor of the Trainee, Beekeepers, Crafty Alfiq, Hulking Draugr, Endurance, Fortified Brass, Grace of the Ancients, Hunting's Rage, Impregnable, Law of Julianos, Leviathan, Mother Sorrow, Plague Doctor, Shacklebreaker, Spinners, Spriggans, and Willpower. If you're not wearing one of those sets, you're not wearing a 5-piece set bonus in PvP starting February 15th. So you'll have to switch to these sets in PvP starting February 15th for the tests if you are on PC, NA, or EU. Okay. Got the important stuff out of the way, back to the letter. At this time, we are planning for this test to run for at least 3 weeks, and we'll let everyone know when we have the next steps locked in. When this test begins on February 15th, we'll also be reverting a prior test where abilities cast on allies were restricted to group targets only. This adjustment gave no appreciable gains towards performance improvements, so this restriction will be removed until further notice, and abilities which target can be triggered by players outside of your group will once again function as they do outside of Cyrodiil. We'll look forward to your feedback and seeing the effects of this test. Okay, so a lot of stuff there. First of all, I think it's too bad that the healing stuff is reverting back, because honestly, I felt like it made a noticeable improvement. Because August and September, I wasn't PvPing. When they made the adjustments, I PvP'd a little bit afterwards. Obviously, I couldn't PvP during prime time hours, but I noticed a pretty substantial difference. Now, on to the post. When you look at this list, there is none of these sets are currently meta. I think we can all agree with that. I mean, a few people are wearing Spriggans and Spinners, but none of these sets are currently the meta. Not many people are wearing the current sets that exist. Crafty Alfiq and Amber Plasma a little bit for Sorks, but most people aren't wearing these sets. And so when you look at how old these sets are, that basically means every single patch, ZeniMax incorporates, they do 2 new dungeons, 3 sets per dungeon, as well as some other stuff, sometimes Overland stuff. And so you get 8+ sets, honestly. Oh, sorry, 3, 6, 8. Yeah, 8+ sets, counting monster sets, every single patch release. And so for the last 2 or 3 years, I don't know what the latest post was, or latest set that came out was, but all these sets have existed for all the sets that have come out the last 2 or 3 years that are used in PvP have a proc set condition that runs checks in the background. And I've been thinking about this for a while. And obviously, I enjoy this game. I like to think about different things. But this last week during the AAP event, I've had a really hard time PvPing during primetime hours in the main campaigns because it still gets laggy sometimes. And so I've been going into Imperial City. A couple days ago, during primetime, we decided to go into no CP, me and a few of my buddies. we had no lag issues at all in no CP. It was pop locked the entire time. We had no performance issues at all. And we were fighting 20, 30. We were getting zerged a lot. It was a lot of fun because our skills fired. We were dying a lot, but it was fun because our skills fired. And what they mentioned on ESO Live is currently, or on their release a few weeks ago, was the current champion point system has 40 passives. So every time you activate an ability, you block, you dodge, roll, you activate a skill, it runs a check on your 40 current CP passives to see if it should proc that passive. Which, when you think about it, you can do one of these things every second. You have a 1 second global cooldown and all these different things. And so you have 40 checks running per person currently. And so when you think about these 50, 20v20, 25v25 PvP battles, every single person has 40 plus checks running per second on their character in these areas. No wonder there's this big server calculation overload. I thought about PvP 3-4 years ago. We used to have big fights all the time. And they talked about how people weren't max CP at that point. And when you think about it, if you're not max CP, you're not proccing all these passives. And now because there's more people, you're proccing more CP passives, and now all of the popular sets are also running checks. So when you think about a set like Pariah, every single time you activate or take damage, it's running a check to see how many resistances you should have. If you're running Eternal Vigor, it's running a check to see where your health is at, to see if it should be giving you stamina and magic recovery or health recovery. All these different sets are running these self checks. And then you have other sets, monster sets like Troll King, Chokethorn, Earthgore, that not only are running checks on you based off of the heals you're giving, they're also running checks on everybody you're healing. So if you're spamming rapid regen in a group and you're healing 4, 5, 6 people, it's now running checks on all those people if you're wearing those sets to see if Earthgore should proc on them. So we talked about it in previous videos, and I'm going to redo it here because those videos are 6 months old now. But yeah, when you think about the server calculations required for all these sets, Chokethorn, Earthgore, Malabeth, all these different proc healing sets, it's pretty substantial. Either it's just procking for you or it's procking for everybody you're healing. And it's not just those sets. It's not just monster sets. There's different sets out there that exist where it's like when you block, you gain 5,000 resistances for everybody within 12 meters of you. There's sets like that. I can't remember what that set's called, but there's other group utility sets like that. Then you have sets like Battalion Defender. Every time you block, you're healing everybody within 15 meters for 2k for every damage thing you take. So it's running those checks. Like, is this person within X amount of meters of you? Okay, now they are. You block damage. How much should we heal them by? How much healing received do they have? It's running all these different checks in the background. And so when you think about the popular sets that existed 2 to 3 years ago, the Spinners, Hundings, Hulking, those types of sets, versus the sets now, proc conditional sets, proc healing sets, proc damage sets, there's a lot more checks being ran. And so it's not going to shock me if on February 15th, this makes a substantial change to performance. I will be testing this myself in CP and no CP just to provide my opinion. I want to see what these tests are going to do. I'll provide my feedback to you guys, but I think it's super interesting. I think this is a good test to run. I know there are quite a few people that wanted to see this change come into play. There's a lot of YouTubers. I watched a lot of videos on people talking about stuff like this. Fangrush was one of them. I know Unified Gaming was another one. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not going to remember every single name that talked about videos like this, but I still love you. Please don't be mad at me. But a lot of people, and not just YouTubers, of course, a lot of people in the forums basically said the same thing. I'm just trying to say that it's good that ZeniMax listened and they're running this test, because I do think this test is going to help quite a bit. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens. So hopefully this makes a noticeable change. It's going to be really disappointing if it doesn't, because I can't personally think of anything else to really test out after this. They're adjusting CP. CP is going to have less checks. You're now running these sets. These sets are going to help with less checks. Maybe bleed this test over into the new patch. That would be fun to see. So do this current test, this patch, and then run it over when the new patch releases. Do it for like a week in that patch, and just see how big of a difference it is. I think that would be an interesting thing to see if performance improves drastically with the CP and PC changes, or CP and gear changes. But obviously it doesn't have to be done to know if this is going to help or not. So yeah, that's the post. Those are kind of my thoughts. Yeah, ironically, the other interesting thing about this is we're all different players, guys. And personally, I'm not a huge fan of proc damage sets. I'm even less of a fan of proc healing sets that save you. There are some procs that I like sets like Bloodspawn, where when you take X amount of damage, Bloodspawn, Pirate Skeleton, sets like that, I think are fine. They're not saving you. You know what I mean? Like they're giving you resistances, or they're giving you damage mitigation, but they're not saving you. There's other sets that when sets exist that do damage for you or heal for you, I'm not a huge fan. Like sets like Malabeth, Troll King, Earthgore, sets like that, I'm personally not a huge fan of, because I think it lowers the skill gap quite a bit due to the game being laggy. Those people, it just saves people in ways that they shouldn't be saved. I think PvP should exist you should improve in PvP, not just wear sets that save you. And so it's going to be interesting to see if all of those sets, which is basically everything that's come out the last couple of years, if that's actually a problem. And so you have players that have wanted, hey, this is the way the game was when it started. We don't want to provide crutches for newer players. And then you have other players like, hey, we want this. We want to raise the skill gap. We want to do this or raise the floor on the skill gap. Obviously, this isn't the reason that they're going to do this. Like, let's say we hypothetically go down this path and stat-based sets improve performance. Nothing else. Just running these sets improves performance. It's going to be kind of funny that they've been fighting's the wrong word. They've been wanting to post these new and interesting sets, and these sets have actually been the problem with performance. That's going to be the interesting thing that comes out. And it's too bad. At the same time, for as funny as that is ironically to me, at the same time, there's only so many stat-based sets you can come out with. So when you're coming out with 8 to 10 new sets every quarter, you have to come out with interesting conditional sets. It's just too bad that creativity could potentially be lost without an adjustment because of the performance on the server. So obviously I'm getting way ahead of myself here. It's just thinking about things down the line, which is what I do. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this. It's going to be interesting to see if changes will be made after this and what changes they're going to be. Are these sets going to have different conditions? Are they going to have bigger cooldowns? Are they just not going to exist in PvP entirely? Obviously, that's way ahead of the curve. We'll find out after 3 weeks what's going to happen. But the big thing to get out of this is we're going back to the meta 3 or 4 years ago, guys. We're going back to Hulking Draugr and Spriggans, or Hunding's Rage. Those are the new meta sets. No monster sets, one-piece monster sets only. The new old meta exists again. So I will be re-rolling all of my old build videos from 4 years ago and reposting it as new content. We will recycle all that YouTube ad revenue. I'm kidding, guys. Yeah, very exciting stuff. Hopefully this test fixes it, because I think we'd all agree we want a game that functions. So even if some of these sets have to go away, it's too bad. But I would much rather have a game that functions than a game where theory crafting is a little bit more interesting. So yeah, those are my thoughts. I'd obviously love to hear yours. Please provide it in the section below. Thank you for watching, guys. Have a nice day.